So for this video, I'm going to go over what I did to prepare the extra scrap wood to be used for testing different finishing methods. Now to be clear, the wood that you see in this footage is not the same wood as I used for finish testing for the neck. I used actual maple for that. What you see in this footage is the same sanding technique, but on oak rather than maple. This wood will be used for a different guitar project, which I will share sometime in the near future, but back to the task at hand. First thing we'll have to do is to get the wood ready for finishing by making sure it's been sanded properly. I'll be using two things to accomplish this fairly quickly: a random orbital sander that I picked up at Harbor Freight, and some Diablo 5-inch sand nets, which are basically a sanding disc but without the holes since it's a mesh. I'll work my way through the grits, starting at 80, then 120, then 180, then 220, and finally at 400. Once we're at 400, we'll have a nice surface to test the finishing process on. My goal in this sanding process is to make sure all 6 sides are evenly smooth to the touch so there are no splinters or deep gouges in the wood before we start. I'll work each side, doing about 5 or 6 passes to get even coverage with the sander before moving on to the next side. I will be doing this for not 1 but 2 pieces of scrap wood because in this finish testing we'll be trying out 2 different methods. You'll notice that one of the edges on each piece of wood is painted with craft paint a different color, one red and one green. These correspond to the different methods, which I will explain in the upcoming videos on what each method is. The important thing though is I'm using the same sanding process for each piece of wood for all 6 sides to try to get them to a similar surface consistency. I'm not putting any downward pressure on the sander, but instead I am guiding it with my hand in the direction I'd like it to move horizontally. If I were to press down as I did this, it would greatly increase the chance of creating more scratch marks in the surface. Alright, so today's the day that we're going to start doing some test finishing, and I have 2 different pieces of maple here. You're going to see each of them has green or red paint, because I'm going to try 2 different methods to apply the finish to these pieces of maple. And this is just to test out the finishing method before I actually apply it to the neck, so we're going to try a few things and see how it goes. Other materials I have here, I have 3 different grits of sandpaper I'll be working with. So I have some, and now it's kind of cut off there, but it's 1500 grit paper. We also have some 800 grit and 600 grit. And these are for wet sanding, which we'll get into a little bit. We also have these paint and stain cloths because they are lint free, so we're going to try to use that to apply the actual linseed oil. We have the linseed oil. I'm going to be pouring it into this cup, which I have labeled. We also have some Japan dryer, and again, 10 little cup, and some mineral spirits, and labeled cup, and 1 cup here to mix them for one of the methods that we're going to be trying, and some gloves because it's probably going to be pretty messy. So what I'll be doing is actually just applying the linseed oil in a couple different methods, which I'll outline shortly, and just go from there. And I'll actually record myself doing it so you can kind of see what the process is. So again, there's going to be 1 method we use for the red and 1 method we use for the green. This way we can keep track of when they are totally done, we can keep track of which one I think came out the best and which one was the easiest to work with. So let's get started.